Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. In today's episode, we're going to take a visit to wine country and recap the race weekend from Sonoma, including a carryover story from last week in Chicago and Cody Ware's big crash, with TNT's coverage this weekend revealing a couple of new angles of what is considered the biggest hit in Gen 7 car history. Plus, we'll discuss the incredibly entertaining Xfinity Series race on Saturday that featured an epic battle between Shane van Gisbergen and Connor Zilisch that gave me high hopes for what to expect in the future. And of course, we'll talk about SVG's dominant performance yesterday, making right and left turns in California. In addition to his dominance, there were multiple storylines, including a pit crew scuffle on pit road, a missed call by NASCAR that no one's talking about but should be, another unfortunate animal meeting its demise during a race, and plenty of drama, including a dramatic last lap pass by Ty Dillon against his in-season tournament opponent, Alex Bowman, and what he had to say about it in his post-race comments since he wasn't interviewed for the television broadcast. However, before we get to that, let's go back to Saturday practice and qualifying session on the 1.99-mile track. As expected, when Cody Ware took to the track, the cameras focused on the number 51 car and talked about what happened late in the race at Chicago when he slammed into the Turn 6 tire pack. What was interesting during the conversation is they showed a pair of new angles of the crash, including one where the RWR driver is shown desperately turning his car into the wall trying to scrub off any speed. And then another shot looking directly at Ware as his car hits the tire pack at 93 miles per hour. You can see moments before he braces for impact and then his head violently slams forward, which resulted in him cracking his helmet and his Hans device. Thankfully, he walked away uninjured, although he did admit that he was very sore this week. After the Cup practice and qualifying session, it was Xfinity Series racing time. But before we actually get to the race, I wanted to note Marty Smith's job doing the command.
What's up, Sonoma? I got four things to say to you. Raise hell, praise Dale, God bless America, and gentlemen, start your engines!
Now that, my friends, is how you give a command. Once the green flag waved, everyone suspected that the eventual winner would likely be coming from the front row, which included the same pair of Junior Motorsports teammates who had battled it out for the Xfinity Series race win the week before in Chicago, in pole sitter Shane van Gisbergen and Connor Zilisch. And the much-anticipated battle did not disappoint. In fact, it had one surprising moment during the second stage, when the veteran driver showed how much he appreciated the racing of his 18-year-old counterpart when he stuck his hand out the window and gave him a thumbs up. In the race's final few laps, it was uncertain who was going to win. SVG was locked on Zilich's rear bumper and got into the number 88 car several times, trying to force him into making a mistake, but he didn't do him dirty. He raced him clean, and the teenager, to his credit, managed to hold off SVG to win the race. It was an impressive performance, and when it ended, I immediately thought about next year and smiled, thinking this is going to be what fans are treated to on road courses for the foreseeable future. The other thing of note, this race didn't have a single caution for cause. I know there are some who enjoy the carnage and like crashes because it resets the field, but the racing of these two drivers proved there doesn't need to be any crashes to put on an entertaining race. And that takes us to yesterday's race, which before it started had two lines of thinking about SVG. Some fans believed that it was basically SVG's race to win no matter what, based on what he had done at Mexico City, Chicago, and on Saturday in the Xfinity Series race. But there were others who said that Sonoma would be different, because Mexico City and Chicago were courses the regular Cup drivers weren't familiar with. At Sonoma, a track NASCAR has come to for decades, SVG didn't have that same type of advantage. Just 15 laps into that first stage, and SVG made it clear he wasn't messing around, pulling out to a 2.5-second lead over William Byron. The next closest, Chase Briscoe, was almost 5 seconds behind Byron. F1, anyone? With 5 laps to go in the stage, pit cycles began, and just to show you how good SVG was on the day, his lead was so large that he pitted early and rejoined the field in second behind his Trackhouse teammate Ross Chastain, who had stayed out. SVG got the best of both worlds, finishing second and earning 9 points, and more importantly, having track position to start stage 2. Following SVG was Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and William Byron. I was paying particular attention to the in-season tournament because we were down to the quarterfinals, and after that first stage, Eric Jones was ahead 17 positions on John Hunter Nemechek, Tyler Reddick was up 3 spots on Ryan Preece, Ty Dillon was up 15 spots on Alex Bowman, and Ty Gibbs was 24 spots ahead of Zane Smith. While SVG was dominant in that first stage and had pulled out to a sizable lead, The second stage started off a little different as the number 24 team appeared to have made some adjustments, and Byron stayed on the rear bumper of the number 88 car early on for some entertaining action. Interestingly, SVG's Trackhouse teammates were back in the field racing for 14th when this happened.
Will not return to Trackhouse. Chastain, his Trackhouse teammate. Oh, man!
Suarez goes around. This is turn 11.
That was basically Ross getting a 2-for-1 special. First tagging his Trackhouse teammate Daniel Suarez, who won't be returning next year and has already been vocal, including on this very channel how Chastain didn't work with him in the past. With that contact sending the number 99 into the rear of Ross's latest rival as of last week in the number 22 of Joey Logano, who was unhappy with him after the race in the Windy City. And interestingly, the second stage, like the first and the race the day before, went without a single caution for cause. And once again, to close out that second stage, SVG pitted while Kyle Larson stayed out and thought he was going to get a stage win and a playoff bonus point. But it wasn't meant to be. SVG passed Larson and won the second stage. He was followed by Larson, Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And that's when things took an interesting turn. The first thing happened on the stage break pit stop when Ty Gibbs, whose pit box was directly in front of Brad Keselowski's pit box, drove into his box with Keselowski right behind him and clipped the right front tire changer of the number 6 car. Take a look at what happens.
But then we showed this. This is the 54 going into the pit box. There's a slight bit of contact. I couldn't tell if he was doing anything more than normal. But then when you look from above, I actually believe this is exactly what any crew or any driver would do to get in any box under green.
Looking left, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right here. All the way, all the way, all the way.
As you can see at the very end of the clip, the tire changer from the RFK team immediately heads to Gibbs' pit box and confronts one of the pit crew members. There were no punches thrown, just some pushing and shoving, but clearly, as was reported later, the number 6 tire changer wanted to show his displeasure with the move. I know a lot of you saw it, and then you saw on social media that NASCAR didn't find anything wrong with the move by Gibbs, and all the announcers agreed. But I want you to hear what Chris Gabehart explained after the race in his post-race interview, because I think it kind of summarizes what happened in this specific situation.
Well, I mean, the 54 was leading the 6 into the pit stop. Literally, they were nose to tail, and their boxes were nose to tail on pit road. And that is worst case scenario for that situation. It happens sometimes, but it's not common. But when it does, the leading car has the right of way to get into the box, and the trailing car's box is part of their box to get in. And the trailing car players just have to realize that they've got to let the leading car through before they get out in the box. They could be out in the box if they choose to be, but they're going to risk getting ran over. And if they do get ran over, it's ultimately on them. So it's a tough rule. It's a tough spot to be in. But all of these guys in the calm of a Monday understand what the rule is. And really, Ty didn't do anything wrong there other than getting his box.
So it was just a really specific set of circumstances with the two cars pitting right beside each other, and they just happened to be coming into the pits at the same time. And based on what I've heard from multiple folks, it does appear that the number 6 tire changer was a little bit out from his wall, which would result in possibly getting clipped by the number 54 car. I felt like going into that third and final stage with no cautions in the first 2 stages, we were due. And boy, did that final stage deliver. It started just 4 laps in when Chris Buescher did some beating and banging with Ryan Blaney and sent the number 12 car off-roading into the Sonoma hills, which brought out our first caution for cause for the weekend. And as you might expect, the 2023 champion wasn't happy about it.
So they're tight, pushing you, pushing you. Easy here, easy. Easy. Easy, we got the fence here, tires here. Just get her rolling if you can. Get her rolling. Yellow's out here.
I'm high-sided.
4.
Thanks a fucking lot, dickhead.
A short time later on the subsequent restart, we had our weekly Kyle Busch spin, and we were just getting warmed up. It was a few minutes later that the broadcast was talking about Cody Ware and what happened with him last week in Chicago when the old commentator's jinx struck. The number 51 car started to inexplicably wiggle, and then this happened.
In the gym working out on Monday and Tuesday, I asked his crew chief, Billy Flord,
He's got a wheel coming out, Danielle. Danielle, he's lost the wheel.
You saw the wheel nut come off. We saw a wheel nut come off that car going through turn 3, and so the wheel finally leaves the vehicle, and everybody's trying to avoid.
And there's the caution.
It's going to roll down.
So that was the view from the TNT broadcast. Now I want you to take a look at the view from John Hunter Nemechek's in-car camera.
Left off the racetrack, come back across, watch it, stay left, left. Yellow, 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 yellow.
So I'm not sure if you noticed during the broadcast coverage how Steve Letarte made a weird noise when the number 42 narrowly missed hitting the wheel. That was me the whole time once it came off of Ware's car. Honestly, I was expecting an immediate caution and didn't think there was going to be any close call with a car hitting the wheel. Because if you rewind it and watch it back, if Nemechek hits that wheel, it's going left or straight. Fans were located in both positions. I figured officials were going to just put out the yellow. Eventually, they did. But guess how long it took? Nemechek drove by the tire 13 seconds after it came off the number 51 car. And then 2 seconds later, NASCAR threw the caution. Yes, 15 seconds. And I'm guessing some of you are seeing the whole irony in this. Last week, Ware didn't get a caution for 34 seconds after he violently slammed into the turn 6 tires. This week, Ware brings out the caution for a loose wheel and NASCAR waits 15 seconds before putting it out. Some may suggest I'm being an alarmist, but if Nemechek hits that wheel and it goes somewhere into the fans, everyone is talking about it like last week. And again, it's a situation that was completely avoidable had NASCAR officials just been somewhat reasonable in putting out the caution in a timely manner. Incredibly, that wasn't the only story during that caution. A short time later, Justin Haley had this unfortunate incident.
Oh, God, I just hit a bunny.
Yes, you saw and heard what he said, right? He hit a rabbit. So for those of you who are keeping count, as I am, that brings us to 3 animals meeting their demise this year during a NASCAR race. Just 6 weeks ago, Ty Dillon took out a squirrel on pit road at Michigan. And earlier this year at Talladega, Josh Berry hit a bird. Not a good year for animals around NASCAR tracks. During that caution, there were split pit strategies. The top 13 drivers stayed out. Chase Elliott was in 14th and got 4 fresh tires. Remember how we had no cautions all weekend before the third stage? We had our third of 4 in that stage just a couple laps later when Noah Gragson suffered heavy damage in a multi-car incident. And Ryan Blaney, who brought out that first caution, once again found himself on the wrong end in a very different way.
Caught up, whole pit. We will not pit this first time by.
I mean, the spotters not talk to the fucking drivers? But there's the fucking lucky dog? Holy shit, Kyle.
Getting stuck in the grass, getting run into by Kyle Busch while trying to pass as the lucky dog. It was not a good day for Mr. Blaney, who finished second from last in 36th and recorded his 7th DNF of the season. After another caution and restart, SVG once again proved that he is the dominant guy when it comes to road courses and won the race after leading a track record 97 laps, surpassing the previous record of 92 held by Jeff Gordon. The Kiwi recorded his 3rd win in the last 5 weeks and is now tied with Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson for the most wins this year with 3 apiece. The other big winners for the day were from the in-season challenge, with John Hunter Nemechek advancing over his legacy teammate Eric Jones, Ty Gibbs beating Zane Smith, Tyler Reddick outlasting Ryan Preece, and last but certainly not least, the number 32 seed of Ty Dillon beating Alex Bowman. And how did he go about doing it? Watch what happened on the race's final lap.
Still there, clear. Nice work, keep digging here. All right, checker flag, nice job.
Great job, everybody. Way to keep fighting. Yeah, baby.
The broadcast didn't catch up with Dillon after the race. Here's what he had to say about it on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio.
I mean, I got to thank Alex first. We raced clean that last 3 or 4 laps, and I think he knew I had to do what I do for $1 million there, and so I think he understood. We talked. So I'm in shock. I'm so proud of our Colleague Racing Seabest Camaro. We just don't quit, you know. We're a fighting team, and that was the heart of it right there. So just proud that we're moving on. It's pretty cool.
Now, I know I've seen some of the comments from some of you guys that you aren't a fan of the bracket challenge. That's fine, but I'm enjoying the hell out of it because I think it's really interesting to watch a guy who was the last seed of the tournament, who got in over SVG, who didn't qualify because he wasn't in the top 32 at the time of the seeding, and has continued to defy the odds and wear Cinderella's slipper, now defeating 3 opponents who were all justifiably heavily favored. There's no reason to believe that he can't beat John Hunter Nemechek next week in Dover, and who knows, just might go on to win in Indianapolis and earn the $1 million. And finally, just a few orders of business. First off, I mentioned this in Friday's video, but today is the last day for any of you Frankie Muniz fans to send me questions to ask him about his racing career. Since we've had a little break for the trucks, I'm going to sit down for a Q&A with Frankie this week and ask him some fan-submitted questions about his racing career. Please put them in the comments and I'll be interviewing him later this week. Also, I wanted to provide an update on my store. If you went and looked at it after last week when I announced it, there were quite a few products and it was a little disorganized. I've changed that. They're all nice and tidy now. But I also wanted to explain how the overall store works. If you just click on a single item, it takes you to that specific item in my store and you can read the description and order it. You can also click on home and that takes you to the full store with all of the items. Just wanted to provide some clarification so it's easier to navigate. And lastly, it's time to announce the winner of the Racer's Prayer print from last Monday's video. And the winner is Linda Fryer 1615. Linda Fryer 1615, please send an email to kyle@beatenandbangin.com so I can get you your prize. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. We covered a lot, and I want to get your thoughts. Let's start with the Xfinity Series race. And for those of you who saw it, do you also think about the future of these two guys going toe-to-toe on road courses? I think it's going to be spectacular. Second, for Sunday's race, I'm really curious to hear if any of you were as concerned as I was from the time the wheel came off Cody Ware's car to the time of the caution, 15 seconds. What about some of the drama for the day, including Ross Chastain getting into the rear of Daniel Suarez, and subsequently Joey Logano, or Ryan Blaney getting upset with Kyle Busch for running into him while trying to pass as the lucky dog? And lastly, I want to hear your thoughts on SVG. Are you annoyed by him winning so much on road courses, or do you view this as we're watching greatness unfold in front of us, as Chase Briscoe described after the race? Thanks again for checking out the latest episode and supporting the channel. I really and truly appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your day.